Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all their multitude. And on the seventh day God finished the work that he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all the work that he had done. So God blessed the seventh day and hallowed it, because on it God rested from all the work that he had done in creation. These are the generations of the heavens and the earth when they were created. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Earth Day is being celebrated round about. TV and newspapers and radio and our worship service ought to have made us pretty aware of this by now. You would have to be deaf and blind not to sense that there is such an observance going on throughout our country. In fact, these days you would have to be deaf and blind not to sense that the planet Earth is in big trouble, and that we're all going to have to become involved in doing something about it if there's going to be any improvement. Yet there are still people who do not seem to be moved by the plight of the earth. They're like the person who responded to a survey in this way. The question was, which do you think is our greatest problem, ignorance or apathy? He responded, I don't know and I don't care. Unfortunately, the problem of our planet, the many problems of our planet are being met by both ignorance and apathy. But the facts are certain. The environment is in trouble. The earth is at risk. The secular prophets have been speaking out now for a number of decades. People like René Dubos, Lauren Isley, many others. And organizations with a strong moral conscience have been working hard to bring about change and to raise the consciousness of people so that they will help bring about change. Organizations like Friends of the Earth, and Sierra Club, and Wilderness Society, the Audubon Society. Well, what is the role of the Christian church in the midst of this environmental crisis? Should our concern be primarily with the souls of persons rather than the environment in which their bodies must live? Should our emphasis be on the spiritual rather than the physical? Ought we to be preparing people for heaven rather than concerning them about the earth? Should piety and spirituality be our focus rather than ecology and conservation? What should the role of the church be in this issue of the environment? Several years ago, at the annual meeting of the American Academy of Science, a speaker boldly named Christianity as one of the culprits, having helped create the environmental problem. Lynn White, a history professor at the University of California, said that Christianity opened the way to technology by portraying nature as given to humankind for use and exploration. According to White, early Western Christianity paved the way for the kind of technology which has now wrought havoc on the environment. That Christian viewpoint, which helped to cause the crisis, Lynn White characterized as saying something like this: God planned the earth explicitly for man's benefit and rule. No item in the physical creation had any purpose save to serve man's purposes. Christianity insisted that it is God's will that man exploit nature for his proper ends. Now, if Professor White's statement is true, and there are some historians who agree with him, then these Christians in the past, and indeed some Christians in the present, have missed what the biblical message is all about. A serious examination of the biblical roots of our faith will uncover a very different attitude about nature. The Genesis story, which has been our theme this morning, speaks of the natural world as a part of God's finest creation. The poet there rhapsodizes about God's creating the earth, and with each sequential creation, God looks upon it, admires it, and says, "That's good." And the early biblical stories of God's covenanting with Israel include the message that the land will be a part of God's blessing of the people. As God enters into a creative partnership with the people, so also their relationship with the land is to be one of creative partnership. The writer of many of the Psalms captured this same spirit of relationship with the land in a very worshipful and caring way. Listen to this from Psalm 104. Bless the Lord, O my soul. O Lord my God, you are very great. You are clothed with honor and majesty, wrapped in light as with a garment. You stretch out the heavens like a tent. You set the beams of your chambers on the waters. You make the clouds your chariot. You ride on the wings of the wind. You make the wind your messengers, fire and flame your ministers. You set the earth on its foundations so that it shall never be shaken. You cover it with the deep as with a garment. The waters stood above the mountains. At your rebuke they flee. At the sound of your thunder they take flight. They rose up to the mountains, ran down to the valleys, to the place that you appointed for them. You set a boundary that they may not pass, so that they might not again cover the earth. You make springs gush forth in the valleys. They flow between the hills, giving drink to every wild animal. The wild asses quench their thirst. By the streams, the birds of the air have their habitation. They sing among the branches. From your lofty abode you water the mountains. The earth is satisfied with the fruit of your work. O Lord, how manifold are your works. In wisdom you have made them all. The earth is full of your creatures. I think we can tell from hearing this that the land did not exist just for the people to use for their own pleasures and desires. The land existed in its own right. It was to be a source of blessing as God was a source of blessing. It was to be loved as God, the creator of the land, was loved. But somewhere along the way, the human race got the idea that the earth was meant to be one great big picnic table to be taken from whenever they desired to do so. The Genesis account of creation is not a license to use the earth, to exploit it for our benefit, whatever that benefit be. It is not permission to exploit the environment for ourselves regardless of the cost. And environmentalists are making us aware of how high that cost has become. No, the Genesis account is the foundation for an attitude that is one of reverence and of love. The kind of attitude that Moses came to on that mountainside when he realized that the place on which he stood, the very place there on the hillside, was holy ground. The kind of attitude that centuries later Albert Schweitzer was to have as he coined the phrase reverence for life, calling upon us to have compassion on life in all of its forms in this world. Reverence and love. The psalmist says in Psalm 24, "The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof." And in the New Testament, Jesus says, "Love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your mind, with all of your heart, with all of your strength. To love God, we are to love what is God's, and the earth is the Lord's. Think of someone that you love outside of your own immediate family, a friend, a colleague, a neighbor, a member of the church. Imagine that this person has something that they cherish a great deal, a pet, a plant, a painting. They're going away on a trip, so they put their cherished possession in your care. How will you treat it? I believe you will treat it with special care because of your love for the owner. Well, the earth is the Lord's. That's the biblical message, loud and clear. And God has placed the earth in our care. And the way that we take care of God's earth is going to say something about how we love God. Jesus once told a parable about a landowner who went on a trip and put his land in the care of his servants. Jesus called them stewards. That's the basis of our word stewardship. We are stewards, caretakers of God's possession, the earth. For the committed Christian, then, love of the earth is a must. How shall we show this love? Well, think for a moment how you show your love for another person. When you love someone, you want the best for them, don't you? You want to know what their needs are so that you might help them. And you want to remove anything that you can that might be causing their hurt. And you want to enjoy them as much as you can. So it is with loving the earth. To love the earth, we must want the best for its well-being and health. So then we must find out what we can do to bring about that health and that well-being. That's why it's so important for us to become as well informed as we can be about the condition of the earth and what we can do about it. And we must try to remove anything that might be causing the hurt. That calls for a commitment on our part to act, to do what we can to remove the hurt. And we are to enjoy the earth's blessings without exploiting its gifts and abusing them. We are to enjoy the earth's blessings without exploiting and abusing its gifts. So you see, the church does have a role to play in addressing the environmental crisis. The greatest contribution that the church can make, I believe, is to teach people and inspire people to love the earth, to see the earth as God's precious possession, placed in our care for us to receive its blessings without destroying its life. Amen.